Hello everyone and welcome back, it's Zakiziel here, and tonight I'll be reacting to 40k lore, The Bad Moons Clan, the most insufferably shiny of all orcs, by Arch. As always, I highly recommend you check out his channel. His content's both informative and entertaining, and there'll be a link to the original video in the description box below. Also, if I sound a bit off today, that's because I'm a bit sick. But without further ado, let's see what he has to say about the closest thing the orcs have to a merchant class.
Greetings and salutations, friends, and welcome back to more Warhammer 40k lore. Orcs. There are a lot of them, and they have a society. Yeah, of sorts, anyways. Primarily based on several major clans, with defining attributes which should, in theory, allow them to operate together with other clans, and have their attributes complement one another, to form, in theory at least, a highly homogeneous yet also diverse in skill and attribute society that functions automatically, without any real need for higher leadership or management skills.
And oh boy, did that mark get missed. Considering that the orcs constantly fight with each other from reasons ranging to just they want to because it's fun, to I want to be the big boss, or your gun is shiny, I want it, and many other reasons. And that's before you even get into the fact that the different clans also fight each other, and that the clans are, you can think of them more like a flavor rather than really any cohesive group, in a way.
Perfect for a unruly species like the Orcs. And yet we've only ever actually talked about one of these clans, and so today we're going to talk about another. The Bad Moons, the wealthiest of all the Orc clans. Which immediately raises a few interesting questions, like, the Orcs know what an economy is? Or, actually, we should start a bit earlier than that. The Orcs know what math is? Sort of. They understand that a lot is more than a little. What constitutes a lot and what constitutes little varies on circumstances, allowing them to have a remarkably effective system of inflation control and price governance, oddly enough. We can see this in the fact that Bad Moons remain just as effective traders, although that too is a loaded term for a species that's barely figured out bartering yet.
Yeah, basically, they use teeth, their own teeth, as currency. The teeth rot rapidly once it's out of their mouth. You can't really hoard teeth for any long length of time. Which also kind of makes me wonder how long the teeth can actually be kept for, or that they would even be a good, store of wealth by to any degree whatsoever. But what I do know is that is quite a few war bosses take the approach of find a git from the Bad Moons clan and punch his teeth out. So then use it to buy something from some orc somewhere, and usually a weapon, then probably take the weapon you just bought from him to later kill him and loot the rest of his stock. I've heard of war bosses doing that.
Regardless of prevailing local circumstances. It could be a backwater orc planet with a tiny greenskin population, where the most valuable and precious resource is freshly dilated squirrel anuses. And even in this capitalistically bereft place,
Freshly dilated squirrel anuses. I'm kind of wondering what the orcs would even use those for. But considering the level of ingenuity the orcs can get up to, I'm pretty sure they'd find some use.
The Bad Moons would find some way to set up a shop, selling wooden sticks in various sizes and pricing them appropriately for the economic prowess of the local populace. Similarly, on major orc worlds where millions of angry, violent greenskins are living from one fistfight to the other, the Bad Moons will invariably set up enormous business empires, replete with personal armies and hordes of slaves and servants to see to the needs of the hungry consumer masses.
And also to ensure their own security, so one of your customers doesn't try to use the gun they just bought from you to try and hold you, at gunpoint.
Always in search of a heavier boxing glove. Though, again, in reality, terms such as shops and businesses, etc., don't really quite fit what we're talking about here. Again, the orc economic system is, basic, and usually formed around the size of the local populace, as here's the thing. The only reason why the orcs even have an economy at all, considering their limited mental faculties, is the fact that every single last solitary greenskin inherently and automatically recognize the same solitary currency and its value in the market that they find themselves in.
Teeth.
Teeth. Those little white things in your mouth. That's orc money, which sounds like a particularly idiotic idea until you start thinking about it. What you have here is an economic resource, a currency, that is being consistently added to the system regardless of loss. So even if teeth are destroyed, new teeth will grow out constantly. They don't require any particular mining or resources or technologies to be created, meaning that teeth are available to each and every single orc at
Meaning, unlike in most creatures, I forget what the cells are called, but the cells in your gums that actually make new teeth, yeah, in humans, the reasons why our adult teeth don't fall out and we get new adult teeth is because after our baby teeth fall out and the new adult teeth come in, the cells that make our teeth just die, and they don't get replaced. That's why we're stuck with these adult set of teeth.
All times, either via falling out of their mouths or being punched out of their mouths in aforementioned fisticuffs. Yet the teeth also grow slowly, and more or less at a consistent rate, with the notable exception of the Bad Moons, whose teeth grow faster than all the other clans, meaning that they are in turn a form of economic stimulus package to the system that will increase the quantity of teeth currency in circulation throughout the system, whilst also providing more mercantile services, which in turn allow a greater quantity of fiat currency to move through the system in a healthy cycle. And since the supply of fresh teeth is always going to be in proportion to the overall population, you are never going to over-mint the currency or under-mint it. The value of a tooth will simply change depending on the number of orcs that are available, and the value of goods available, like guns, ammunition, food, slave labor, etc., will also change in tact with this. As bad
Which is I find it kind of funny actually that the old ones also baked into the orcs I assume that this is part of the whole thing baked into them, and not just a happenstance that they would actually have a means of generating their own currency in order to function as a proper society outside of the war in the heavens.
Moons have an innate and mysterious power to immediately know the precise value, in the current market somehow, of any item placed before them.
So what you're saying is that they basically have a psychic link to the orc stock market.
The only real problem with this system might be that if you have too many orcs and you're not taking enough teeth out of circulation, you could eventually end up with spiraling inflation. But seeing as orcs will continuously punch each other in the face, ruining teeth, taking teeth from each other, feeding it into the system and out of the system in turn, the orcs have a remarkable way of self-regulating their own internal economy.
Also, let's not forget at how tooth-rotting fungus beer is.
Even more so when you take into consideration that orcs never compete with any other economies. Ever. As every orc on a planet, no matter how many different tribes they might be divided in, all find that teeth are
That is a snazzy-looking orc.
worth the exact same amount anywhere. And so, when one market is absorbed into the other, usually accompanied with an overt display of extreme violence, the two markets simply merge and continue business as usual. Further facilitated by the orc species' remarkable ability to commit violent genocide upon one another in one instance, and then clasp hands in brotherly love and commit violent genocide upon the other group of orcs in the next instance. But don't think for even an instant that their role as, traders make the Bad Moons any less orc-like than anybody else. Their primary interest when it comes to trade, of course, is not grains or little fluffy animals or fur coats. No, it's guns, choppers, heavy weapons, entire artillery pieces and tanks if they can get their hands on them. Not to mention the favor.
You know, that's also why it is that thinking about how much money they have at the disposal, I've also heard that the Bad Moons are like that among them you will find the most common occurrences of orcs actually getting fat.
Weapon of all Bad Moons, the snaz gun.
Oh boy.
The snaz gun.
Which, if I remember correctly, a snaz gun is it's the broad classification for the guns that tend to be used by, what are they called again? Oh yeah, flash gits. And they can have who knows how many different features because the owner basically wants to make the shiniest and shootiest gun they can.
A snazzy gun, in case the reference was too subtle for you. The snaz gun is, well, I don't actually know what a snaz gun is because the orcs don't know what a snaz gun is. It could be an actual good old-fashioned gun firing bullets, or shotgun shells, or miniaturized rockets, or plasma, or laser, or babies, for all the Bad Moons care. As the actual purpose of a snaz gun is not actually to kill the enemy. That is a secondary functionality. Its main purpose is to look awesome, whilst attempting to carry out its secondary purpose, which means loud noises, bright flashing lights, and as many random attachment onto the gun as possible.
You know, like for anyone who's played Saints Row, I think was it 3, yeah, or was it 4? Whichever one. No, yeah, I think it was 4 actually. Where there's this gun called the Murica, which was a combination flamethrower. It was flamethrower, grenade launcher, rocket launcher, shotgun, and machine gun, all put together.
Regardless of whether or not they actually serve a purpose. Though occasionally, often by sheer unmitigated accident, they do actually help in some way, shape, or form. The Bad Moons aren't complete ignoramuses, and they will occasionally happen across something that is both expensive and worthwhile. Like some form of advanced barrel stabilizer that allows for a much higher rate of accurate fire, or some way
Assuming they even know what aiming is.
to integrate the gun directly into the crude but functional bionics that the Bad Moon in question might have had hammered into his skull by a hopefully well-compensated doc. Now, of course, even if an orc has the actual capabilities, ability, and technical help to hit something, doesn't mean he will choose to do so, but it will make him a far more adequate marksman than your average greenskin.
This is also why I find especially funny that the Inquisition's excuse was for what was killing the Celestial Lines was orc snipers, which is an oxymoron.
Especially whilst wielding a weapon with fire rate in the quadruple digits. And a caliber well past, oh god, please no. This passion for loud, boomy, rapid-firing firearms also means that the Bad Moons are a bit un-orky in their approach to warfare, in that they would much rather blow their enemy to smithereens in an overwhelming hail of high-explosive gunfire, rather than wade on into melee, chopper raised. That's the kind of work that can be reserved for lesser, poorer orcs, and Gretchen slaves when none of the former are available. That's not to say, however, that the Bad Moons are in any way bad at close quarters fighting. They're still orcs, obviously, they're going to be fairly good at it, and due to their strong monetary abilities, they also tend to have much better gear than everyone else. Heavier armor, custom force fields, power weapons, ginormous snippy claws, anything and everything you could imagine an orc wanting, the Bad Moon have more of than everybody else.
Such as, say, becoming a cyborg, orc whose right arm is a massive power claw that can be launched via a chain and used as a grappling hook or flail, and then retracted, and in addition, and having rocket launches built into the body, so you just shower everything around you with rockets as you just go about your merry business. It's bludgeoning things to death with a power weapon from a distance.
To the point where they start nailing spares onto random vehicles just because a pair of power claws sticking out of the hood for some reason just kind of looks awesome.
I assume it'd be fairly effective if they ram into something, just like when they use the what do they call oh yeah, the death rollers they'll attach to some of their vehicles. I assume it's a similar idea to that.
And obviously, the Bad Moon's love for overwhelming, flensing firepower also extends into their vehicles too. For whilst the infantry, like the Flash Gits with their snaz guns, can pump out a fair old bit of lead, far in excess of any average orc mob, a vehicle can of course carry a lot more weaponry again than even the sturdiest orc could ever hope to lug into the field.
You know, that's reminding me of this one particular image of a orc who has triple-barreled big shooters on each arm, and he's just draped in all these ammo belts, and it's like still not enough DACA, because there can never be enough DACA. Also, one of my favorite guns that I've seen the Flash Gits actually use is when they took the Ogren Ripper guns and loaded them with slugs, belt-fed them, and, well, I quite appreciated that in Dawn of War, or Dark Crusade and Soulstorm, just how much damage Flash Gits could do with their snaz guns.
Especially with any ambitions of firing all of them at once. That extra carry weight can also be used to lug around a great deal of absolutely worthless garbage. Or status symbols, as the Orks like to refer to them, with the average truck or battle wagon absolutely covered in totems, paraphernalia, icons, additional weapons, extra hardware, random pieces of brightly colored metal, and gold. Incidentally, did I mention that the Bad Moons are very fond of gold? Ridiculously fond of gold, even though gold has no actual observable value to them since it's not currency to Ork kind.
I assume it's just because it's shiny, and it's the same color that the Klan uses, so it just kind of works out.
Well, yeah, they like gold. A lot. Not just yellow, gold, as in the metal gold. Again, I don't even know why, but they feel a strange instinctual attraction to that particular soft, decidedly un-orkish metal. But then again, that is far from the only un-orkish thing about the Bad Moons. Besides their combat tactics, which is shoot, don't stomp, weird enough in and of itself, they've got certain little quirks that makes them less than desirable in Orkish society, because up until this point, you might think that surely Bad Moons are super duper popular everywhere. They bring incredible wealth to whatever warband they join. They bring loot, they bring vehicles, they bring ranged firepower, they bring teeth. Surely they must be welcomed with open arms from one side of the galaxy to the other. Not quite, because alongside great wealth also comes an incredibly poor and undesirable personality, which even Orks, accustomed to habitual blind violence, find, frankly, quite disgusting.
So basically, they're the kind of stuck-up rich asses says that even the surliest of bar drunks wouldn't want to have a pint with.
Starting with the seemingly inherent Bad Moon's assumption that anything and everything that they can see is also something that they can, and therefore should, own. If that means paying for it with enormous wads of flashy cash, then so be it. If it means breaking into that person's house later at night, or paying someone to do so, well, either way, it's theirs now. And those, of course, are the less confrontative ways in which something can be obtained in Ork society.
I mean, consider the Death Skulls and how they steal everything. They'll come in, steal everything that isn't nailed down, then come back to steal the nails, and then take what was previously nailed down. And they themselves are also considered un-orky because, from what I've heard, the Death Skulls, while they, enjoy a good scrap as much as any orc, for them, the most exciting part is the looting. And I've heard that they will try to end battles as quickly as possible, so that they can get to the looting part.
As simply shooting the orc in question and taking his stuff is also an entirely valid option, although it is likely to incur some sort of reaction. As most orcs tend to be linked together in some way, shape, or form, shooting a random orc on the street is likely to get his mob on your ass, or his entire clan if you're a bit unlucky with his position in the hierarchy. Now, this is of course nothing particularly rare for orcs, as civil war does not describe a particular unique state of being to greenskins, it simply describes yesterday, tomorrow, and every single day you have more than one orc on a planet.
Yep, because orcs need to fight, and they'll fight anything. If they don't have something other than orcs to fight, then they will fight orcs. Sometimes when they have other things than orcs to fight, they will still fight other orcs.
Though very few clans are quite as incendiary as the Bad Moons. Partially because, yes, they will try to take your stuff one way or another. Partially because of the extraordinarily haughty way in which they try to take it. Imagine somebody slapping you in the face with a wad of cash and asking for your trousers, and you've got a roughly generalistic idea of how Bad Moons conduct most of their negotiations. But also because They don't like being upstaged, and need to be the center of attention at all times. Bad moons tend to try and overthrow whomever is currently leading them, usually by bribing the current warlord's bodyguards, or
So they're also attention whores too.
dying in the attempt because he underbid. That is also an option. Frankly, describing the Bad Moons as merely treacherous would be an insult to Judas and all traitors everywhere, as the Bad Moons are far more than mere traitors of chance or consequence or anything like that. They are habitual traitors.
So they're Skaven level traitors then.
It is literally in their DNA to try and screw over whomever leads them, in large part because whomever is currently leading them has probably personally wronged them at some point in time. See, here's the thing. The Bad Moons aren't enormous assholes just because their biology tells them to be this way. They also, frankly, frequently have good reasons to act rather meanly, brazenly, and unapologetically as hellish to everyone around them, as everyone around them who is not a Bad Moon tends to view them as walking ATMs. Now,
Yeah, makes sense that they might become, so aggressive considering the aforementioned thing of that, because their teeth grow back quickly and the whole thing of, poor boss is going on knocking out the Bad Moon's teeth whenever he needs some cash for something. Yeah, I imagine that's gonna result in something.
remember, what is orc cash again? Teeth. That's right. How do you remove teeth from an otherwise perfectly healthy mouth? Yes. Hence the walking ATM thing. They have literal money in their mouths. Money that can be relatively easily removed with a bit of blunt force trauma. As you can probably readily imagine, frequent withdrawals using this method can get the Bad Moons rather irate and somewhat hostile towards their users. Fellow greenskins, of course. Not that they don't understand, mind you. The Bad Moons value cash, or teeth in this case, more so than any other clan. Oh, they get why they're being punched in the face. They just don't like it.
Well, understanding why someone's doing something does not necessarily mean, agreeing with them on them doing it or liking what they're doing.
And an aspiring Orc warlord should be careful not to antagonize the Bad Moons too much, as their tremendous wealth can have very beneficial consequences. Not just for bringing in enormous quantities of weapons, armor, and customized gear to his warband at large, but also due to their ability to attract eccentric individuals. For example, the Bad Moons sport a far higher percentage of weird boys than almost any other clan. In large part because, well, the Bad Moons do weird shit. The weird boys do weird shit.
Fair enough. Also, it's kind of now making that whole thing of them having a psychic link to the stock market comment I made earlier just... Oh boy, actual psychic phenomenon going on there.
And both prefer fighting at a distance. The Bad Moon's mechanical interests also tend to get quite a lot of mech boys joining their ranks too, and the more innovative ones alongside them. For example, the enormous teleporter devices used by Gazgul Mag Uruk Thraka to invade Armageddon were built by Bad Moons first, and then sold to Gazgul in return for an alliance. And access to his markets, obviously. And if the power of cash is as powerful in the 41st millennium as it is in the modern world, and the creation of enormous teleportation devices that can transport hundreds of orc boys at a time down to a planetary surface through the atmosphere accurately, well, it certainly does suggest that, yes, teeth does indeed talk, even in the far future of the 41st millennium.
Makes me wonder what other wacky gadgets the orcs have that were a result of the bad moons. Like, what's it called again? I wonder if they might have been the ones who made the shock attack gun. That thing that, if I remember correctly, you shove a grot in it and then it teleports them, kicking and screaming, through the warp, or inside a tank, or even inside an opponent's armor, or inside your opponent in general, and this terrified creature is going to be frenzied and clawing and biting at everything, and may tear his way out through your body. There's also the messier aspects, because I've also heard that, well, that the harrowing experience of being shunted through the warp all of a sudden also causes these grots to void their bowels, and that there have been cases of space marines drowning inside their armor because a grot from a shock attack gun got teleported into their mouth or into their helmet and voided its bowels into his power armor. Which, yeah, that's quite a way to go for a space marine.
So the next time you see a bad moon, consider being nice to him. No matter how much of an enormous asshole he might be, because who knows? He might build you something truly ridiculous, or at the very least, pay for its construction somewhere further down the line. Just be wary if he starts hanging around with your friends and they tell you that he keeps giving them new choppers, and little drawings with your back on it, and a nice, big, red X right in between the shoulder blades. And of course, if you have any gold lying around, you keep that a well-guarded secret. Until next time, I've been Arch. Thank you all very much for listening, and I hope to see you all again soon. Till then, have a good day.
You know, considering how much the Bad Moons love gold, actually, I'm kind of surprised now that I think about it, actually, that they don't make more attempts to go after the Custodes, since Auramite has that golden look to it. Then again, considering how many orcs a custodian can kill, you know, given that campaign where I think the Emperor sent like 10,000? I know, was it 1,000 or 10,000 custodians that killed millions of orcs at the cost of only 3 of their own? Yeah, that is also a kind of a fight. I imagine the orcs may not be keen on fighting. But that was a fun watch, and I hope you guys enjoyed watching with me. After this, I'm going to do another one of my playthrough recordings for Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines. So expect that soon. But until then, ta-ta!